This evening we're going to go ahead and start off on page 26, which is the lesson plan, so we can read our procedure for this class. Okay, so we're going to be on page 26, procedure 5. Page 26, procedure 5. Procedure 5 says, emphasize that triggers, which is what we talked about last week. We discussed how triggers can either be both, they're not necessarily positive or negative, they're just something that makes us feel an emotion. It doesn't matter whether that emotion is positive or negative, and they stir up some type of emotion in us that then leads to a thought, a feeling, and an action. It says, emphasize that triggers fuel negative thoughts, and without self-control, these thoughts can lead to poor choices. Introduce the STOP acronym on page 34. Go through it showing how in all our decisions, at work, home, and elsewhere, we can use this acronym to help us make right choices. A right choice is one that will not bring harm to ourselves, others, possessions, or the environment. Explain that the STOP acronym can help us learn to control negative thoughts. Negative thoughts can fall into 3 main categories. These are very important because we're going to reference back to these. First one is generalizations, all or nothing, and hateful and angry. So negative thoughts can fall into 3 main categories: generalizations, all or nothing, and hateful and angry. And that's in the procedure on page 26, procedure 5. Continuing, it says, these types of thoughts can cause us to feel victimized, defeated, and hostile. Choose students to read the section entitled Change Negative Thoughts to Positive Ones, found on pages 35 through 36. Stress the importance of recognizing these types of thoughts in order to use self-control to stop them from affecting our choices. Have participants complete the chart on page 37 entitled Putting It into Practice. Allow volunteers to share their positive replacement thoughts with the class. So that's the procedure that we're going to be covering this evening, and I'm going to go ahead and start on page 34. So let's turn back to page 34. And we're very familiar with the STOP acronym, but when we implement it into the workplace, it's important that we tell them, oh yes, it seems very simple, right? It's 3-4 little words that, okay, it's something that we see every single day, but we emphasize the impact that it can have on a personal life, but change the environment in which we work. So it says to control negative thoughts, you have to S-T-O-P. First one is stop. Next one, think. Next one, and P, with a right choice. Okay, so first we have to clear our mind completely. Now, oftentimes, when we're teaching the intermediate series and the kindergarten series, we enforce that, it's helpful to completely stop, physically stop as well as mentally stop. Now, in a workplace, that might not always be convenient. Like sometimes you will not be able to stop in that very moment, depending on what you're doing. It's nice if you can, but it's very helpful to learn how to just mentally stop, to cease all our thoughts. I don't know about you, but when you think about something, you can go in a spiral, right? You just keep thinking and you spiral and spiral and spiral. Someone says something, and before you know it, you're all worked up. So be able to clear our minds, completely clear our minds. If we have to transport to a location in which we feel calm, we can do that mentally. Imagine a beach, imagine being at home, imagine standing in front of an AC, whatever it is, completely clear your mind. Then, think about the situation. Now this is important. We have to think about it rationally, right? From all angles, not just the angle that we are seeing. Stop and completely rationally think about the situation. Weigh our options. Important to also think of the positive options, not just the negative ones. Weigh both sides of the coin. And then proceed with a right choice. And sometimes we might not always know what that choice is. And it's not a bad thing to ask for help. Say, hey, look, I'm having this problem. Here are my options. Here's how I feel about it. Here's how my coworker feels about it. What can we do? What's a way that we can resolve the situation? Whether it's to your supervisor or whether it's to another coworker who's trusted, we can always ask for help to help us arrive to that positive choice. At the bottom here, it says, put the STOP acronym to work in your life to control negative thoughts. The STOP acronym is a mental tool that, when diligently applied in every situation, can change the way you think and the behavioral choices you make. Okay, so it has to be diligently applied. We can't use it one time or it will not work. We have to consistently use that in any situation. If the more we use it in our personal lives, the easier it will be to teach, and the easier it is to teach is the more someone will relate to it from us and be more willing to implement it into their lives. And also, give your coworkers the ability to do it at the same time. We can stop if we notice that they need a moment, give them the space to stop, think about their options, and calm down and come with a positive choice. And when we're trying to do it, we wouldn't like it if someone's constantly badgering us, so it works both ways. And part of that environment is creating that everyone has the space and room to grow. Okay, so let's go on to page 35 here and learn how to change negative thoughts to positive ones. It says to use the STOP acronym, you must first, this is the first step, determine if the thoughts you are experiencing because of your anger triggers are negative. So we first have to look at the condition of our thoughts. Once you have determined that your thoughts are negative, remember the 3 categories. They can be generalized thoughts, they could be all or nothing thoughts, or they could be hateful and angry thoughts. And we'll continue to go into those. The first thing to do is stop your thoughts from getting any further. So once we recognize, okay, look, I'm going down a path I should not be going down. Stop. Pump your brakes. Stop. You're probably thinking, you're right, easier said than done. But the truth is, saying we're going to overcome a problem is part of the strategy of winning. And I really like that statement. Saying we're going to overcome it, that's part of the strategy. And there it says that winning is not something that just occurs. You don't just, occur to win something. It requires strategy. It requires a commitment. It requires an effort. And the first part of that effort is saying that we're going to do it. Once you have purpose in your minds, what does purpose in our minds remind us of? Set our minds in advance, right? Character unit, page 80. That we are going to change. The next step is to practice changing our thoughts. So we can't just say it, okay, I'm going to change this. Then we have to practice, because practice makes perfect. It might be slow at first, and we may experience some setbacks, but practice brings success. And the first lesson that we talked about, we defined what a successful workplace is. It's one that's productive, one that's peaceful, one that can bring about whatever the goal is. And to do that, we first have to tell ourselves, hey, look, we can be successful, and then continue to practice it. So how do we do that? Step number 1, take a moment to analyze what you're thinking. Since controlling our thoughts is an inward battle, take a moment to analyze what you are thinking. Sometimes it's necessary to stop and tell myself, I'm not going to think like this. Now, please close your eyes, and we're going to imagine this. You open your front door and you take a step into your home. Everyone imagine what their home looks like? Yes? Whatever state it might be, whether it's clean, whether it's messy, whether there's dishes that need to be washed, whether there's some things that are unorganized. Imagine what your home looks like. Now think of your mind that way. You can open your eyes. Think of your mind that way. So when we venture into our mind, we have to stop. Okay, what does it look like in there? What's the condition in there? Are there things thrown everywhere? Or is it orderly and neat? Is it negative or is it positive? Is it productive or counterproductive? Before you allow that thought to enter fully, determine if it is positive or negative. Tell all negative thoughts to leave, but harbor and nurture positive ones. So going back to our home, would you let some random stranger come and throw their trash in your house? You'd be like, excuse me. Right, we'd stop it. We'd be like, no, that's not allowed in my house. Would you allow yourself to finish a drink and just throw it on the floor? No, you would discipline yourself to pick it up and throw it away. Would you allow a mess to be left on your kitchen counter? No, you discipline yourself to clean it up and follow through. Same thing with our thoughts. We can't allow them to slip by. We can't allow other people's opinions or thoughts about us to slip by and clutter our minds. We are the gatekeepers of our minds, just like we're the gatekeepers of our homes. And we have a responsibility to have a productive and nurturing environment in our minds that starts with controlling and analyzing our thoughts. What's the next step? Number 2, narrow down those thoughts. For example, a common negative thought that people experience from time to time is no one appreciates me. Notice that the scope of this thought is broad in nature. This can be categorized as generalized thinking. So a generalized thought is one that's broad in nature. To think that no one appreciates us is to imply that there is not one person in the entire world who values us as individuals. Of course, this is a false thought. There are people who appreciate us. A more realistic thought could be, he doesn't appreciate my input at this meeting, or she doesn't appreciate my suggestion. Okay, so when we stop and we rationalize what we're thinking, we take the time to narrow down the scope. Not only do we leave room for others to grow, we accept that, okay, look, there's a possibility that there are people around me who appreciate us. And we'll go on to talk about how our thoughts create our environment. So if you're in a workplace and you think no one appreciates me, you're going to treat them as if they don't appreciate you. You're going to anticipate their rejection of you, which then affects the way that you treat them, which then affects the way that they treat you, and you create a whole nother environment that's not productive and beneficial. So we narrow our thoughts and we go to the specific problem. Then, it says continuing, using terms such as always or never in our thinking should immediately send up red flags. So we're surveying our minds, we're looking at the room. Always and never should be the big stack of dishes, the big pile of dirty laundry, blaring red lights, right? Thoughts such as, I'll never get promoted, or she always listens to Allison's ideas, but not mine, are other examples of generalized thinkings. Can any of us see the future? Therefore, how do we know we'll never get promoted? How do you know she won't listen to our next idea or maybe the idea after that? Be careful of always and never thoughts. They set us up to fail and do not give us or those we interact with room to improve. They set us up to fail and do not give those we interact with or ourselves room to improve. We say, okay, I'm never going to get promoted. Is your work ethic going to go down? Is the effort and the care that you put into the things you do, that's going to start to show? And guess what? You probably won't get promoted, but your thoughts therefore recreated your reality. So sometimes just narrowing our thoughts and thinking of the incident more realistically, turning to page 36, is enough to change negative thoughts into positive ones. So rather than, I'll never get promoted, a more realistic thought could be, I didn't get promoted this time, but I'm going to keep doing the best work I can. And see how easy that was? You acknowledge the problem. No one's saying to pretend there isn't one. Okay, acknowledge the fact that yes, you're feeling disappointed. Yes, you're feeling, passed over maybe. Okay, that's all right. But the positive follow-up is, I'm going to keep doing the best that I can. And it acknowledges the way that you're feeling, but then it gives you an automatic solution instead of dwelling on the negative. It says, when we think to learn in specifics rather than broad generalizations, we have greater control over our thoughts. And it becomes a lot less overwhelming and more focused. And remember we talked about how sometimes our thoughts feel as if they have emotions attached to them? And sometimes when we can strip back the emotions of it and just look at the facts, we're able to give ourselves a more clear plan of action to move forward. And always remember, asking for help is always okay. Step number 3, give yourself a break. On other occasions, our thoughts, though specific in nature, are negative for other reasons. I can't get this right, therefore I can't do anything right. Or, he doesn't like my idea, therefore he must not like me. Can be categorized as all or nothing thinking. When these negative thoughts cross our minds, we have to learn how to recognize them as all or nothing and replace them. All or nothing thoughts create a false perception that just because we struggle with doing one thing right, then means we can't do anything right. Just because we make one mistake, we are incapable of doing anything correctly. You can replace these negative thoughts with positive ones. For example, I can't do anything right can be replaced with, making one mistake doesn't take away from all the things I can do. I will learn from this mistake and not repeat it in the future. And that gives us hope, right? We're changing a mindset of, all hope is lost, my life is over, I'm done, to, here's what I can do to improve the situation. And we can always encourage ourselves and keep in mind that we have room to grow. And the next very important one is to negate the negative. Another way to categorize negative thoughts is hateful or angry. These thoughts are the most dangerous and can easily lead to aggression and violence. Here are some examples. She's just a jerk, or who does he think he is? Someone should give her an attitude adjustment. They don't pay me enough for this aggravation. These thoughts are cause for alarm. Again, blaring lights. When we survey the room of our minds, blaring lights. Why? Because back to our thoughts create a reality. If you think that about someone, even though you don't say it out loud, your thoughts lead to your feelings, and your feelings lead to your actions. So guess what? You're going to treat her like she's acting like a jerk. You're going to treat him like he doesn't know who he is. You're going to try to give her an attitude adjustment through the ways that you speak. Even though you don't recognize it, it could be subtle. When you hand her a paper, here you go. You should do it. The slightest little things are then going to come through in our actions. It says we often mull these thoughts over and over in our minds. They can fester and become gaping wounds, infecting our interactions and the way we process information. That last part, the way we process information, our brains completely become rewired. We can't even process the simple things the same way because we've created an environment that's unproductive and negative. It says, although most people don't act upon these negative thoughts to bring harm to others, thoughts like this can leave us feeling hostile and resentful. And let's turn back to page 33 really quick. And the bottom of that page, there's a quote there. It says, harboring negative thoughts can literally be compared to drinking poison. Now, how many of you have ever seen someone drink poison and the person next to them falls over? Anybody? Ever seen that occur? Ever seen someone drinking poison, glaring at someone, the person they were glaring at fell over? Guess who falls over? The person drinking the poison. So, in all the negativity that we're creating in our mind, are we hurting the other person right there in that moment? No, because they'll be going about their day, living their lives peacefully and joyfully, singing as they do their paperwork, while you're across the room, glaring at them, creating your own negative reality. And last week we learned that that can actually affect us and our health, physically. So it seems a little bit counterproductive, right? Continuing, it says, they inevitably lead to rage, which in rare but increasingly more frequent cases can lead to violent and aggressive language and behavior in the workplace. Why do you think that is? Because they recognized that it was only them feeling that way. So they had to do something to make the other people feel the way that they were feeling. If they were feeling like someone wasn't seeing them, they therefore had to make themselves seen and let everyone know, this is how I felt. And no one paid attention. And it starts small. We see children throwing tantrums when they're feeling negatively and no one else realizes it. They throw a tantrum. They get older. They throw a tantrum a different way. We have school shootings because they harbored negative feelings and they wanted everyone else to know the way they were feeling. And then it's crossed over to the workplace. They harbor those negative feelings, so much so that it's now a part of the Department of Labor's laws. They have a conduct of violence. The acronym is the OOHA. It's a part of the Department of Labor. They have now created a conduct of what employers must go over with their employees so they know this type of conduct is unacceptable. That all started with a thought. It says, when we experience this line of thinking, we must stop. Remember to say to yourself, I'm not going to think like this, and then replace those thoughts with positive ones. For example, rather than, she's just a jerk, you can replace that thought with, maybe she's having a bad day. Or regardless of how she behaves, I'm going to have a great day. Okay, so there are two different lines of thinking there, two different ways that we can respond positively. We can respond to the person with empathy, respond to the person with kindness, or we can recognize that, hey, look, we have no control over the actions of others, but we have control over the way that we respond to it. Rather than, they don't pay me enough for this, try, they're not paying me to be aggravated, they're paying me to do my job, so I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability. Changing negative thoughts to positive ones won't be easy at first, but it can be done. It takes determination and practice, practice, practice. Okay, so let's go over that. So, when we have negative thoughts, we first take a moment to analyze what we're thinking. We narrow down those thoughts. We give ourselves a break, and then we eliminate the negative to create a positive, peaceful, productive environment. So let's try it. Page 37, it says, putting it into practice. Use the chart below to write down some of the negative thoughts you may experience from time to time. Determine which of the three categories your negative thoughts fall into. Identify if they're generalizations, all or nothing, or hateful or angry. Then, write down a positive replacement for those thoughts. So we're going to try to do this as a class, okay? So I have some thoughts that I wrote down, and I would like you all to tell me which category they fall into. Generalization, all or nothing, or hateful or angry, and then we're going to try to replace those thoughts. Okay, so we have an example of how to do it. First thought, I can't do anything right. What category does it fall into? All or nothing thinking. And a positive replacement is, I made a mistake with that order. I can be more careful and get the next one right. So you ready to try it with me? Yes, okay. So my first thought, no one ever listens to me or no one ever believes me. What kind of thought is that? Sorry, I can't hear you. Okay, yes, it's a negative thought, but which category does it fall into? Generalizations, all or nothing, or hateful or angry? Yes, generalizations. It suddenly blankets everyone in your workplace as bad. And then you're going to respond to everyone in your workplace as bad, right? So what is a positive thought that we can replace that with? So what are some positive thoughts? No one ever listens to or believes me. How can we replace that with a positive thought? Yes, I made a mistake. I could do it better next time. Anything else? I'll try to be more clear next time. Yes. Also, self-reflection is a very important one, right? We take a look at the things that we could do to help better improve the situation, right? Okay, I had something similar. I will try my best to make myself more clearly understood. Okay, so taking the moment to say, what can I do to help fix the problem? All right, let's try another one. I hate this place. What is that? Generalization, all or nothing, or hateful or angry? Hateful and angry, right? And that hate then translate into the way that you act. Okay, what's a positive replacement thought? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to try to make things better. Or how about, I don't appreciate it when, whatever the problem is that you're having, I don't appreciate when so-and-so slams the door. But I can try to calmly remind her, or I can try to focus on what I'm doing. Different things like that. Okay? What about, I'll never get this done? Generalization, all or nothing, or hateful or angry? All or nothing, right? Again, we're placing absolutes on a temporary problem. Okay, so then we can replace that. Positive thinking. And remember we learned about how taking the time to remove the emotion from it and come up with a practical plan. Okay, you have a big stack of papers to do. How can I organize these? Maybe I do these first, these next, and then these. And we break it down in a way that we can have a plan of action rather than just focusing on the problem. Okay, at the bottom of the page here, it has a conversation. Speaker 1 says, how was your day at work? Speaker 2, oh great, I had a busy day. I had a generalized thought in the morning, but I changed it to a positive one. Then I had an angry thought about one of my coworkers, but I changed that to a positive one too. Then, right before I went home, I had an all or nothing thought about my supervisor. And you changed that one too? Yep. Wow, too bad you don't get paid to change your thoughts. That would be wonderful, right? If we got paid for all the positive improvements that we make, we would definitely be a lot more positive, right? But when we're going back to remember that we have a responsibility to ourselves and to the people around us, right? And a lot of the thoughts in here came from a place of entitlement, right? Well, I am entitled to be paid because blah, 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 blah. I'm entitled for them to treat me a certain way. I'm entitled to this. But stopping and thinking that the responsibility that we have is to treat others with care, concern, and respect. And that's a standard that's held. That's not a feeling or an emotion. We don't feel respectful at some point in time in a day. We don't feel respectful one day and feel disrespectful the next day. It's a standard that we have to hold ourselves to no matter what. And standards don't change, no matter how much our feelings or our environment might. Okay, so this concludes the procedure that we were talking to. And I want to go back to that and read that middle part again. So let's turn back to page 26 before I turn it over to the next teacher. Okay, and it says, negative thoughts can fall into three main categories: generalizations, all or nothing, and hateful and angry. These types of thoughts can leave us to feel victimized, defeated, and hostile, which are all the opposite of productive. If you feel victimized, defeated, and hostile, are you going to push yourself to do better? No. Okay, and then right beneath it, it says stress the importance of recognizing these types of thoughts in order to use self-control to stop them from affecting our choices. So we have the ability to stop those thoughts from manufacturing themselves into our lives and changing the reality in our perception and the way that we treat others. So that's where I'm going to conclude for this evening, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the next teacher.
Hello, everyone. Let's give our first teacher a hand. Okay, and we're going to turn back to the lesson plan. And remember, we're in Chapter 2, and we're going to start in Procedure 6. This is on page 27. Page 27. And it says, explain that the next important aspect of developing and practicing self-control is to control our emotions. Emotions. Have students revisit page 30, re-emphasizing that our thoughts lead to feelings. Discuss with students the section entitled Use Self-Control to Handle Your Emotions, found on pages 38 and 39. Inform participants that controlling our thoughts and feelings will enable us to think correctly. This, in turn, will help us make rational choices, which can lead to positive interactions and communication. So we're going to jump over to page 38. And at the top of page 38, if you want to, it's always helpful to put when you're teaching the procedure, so you can write procedure 6 on there, on the top. And it's entitled, Use Self-Control to Handle Your Emotions. Don't let your emotions handle you. Now, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands of how many times we've let our emotions handle us. Because I think every hand would probably be up, because at some point in time, we've kind of let our emotions handle us, right? And that could be what prompted us to even get involved in this program in the first place, to learn how to teach it, right? I know that's how I got involved. It was just like, there's got to be something out there. And then you find this program and you're like, wow, there is something that can help me, right? You fall in love with it and you start teaching it. Now, we're going to begin reading, but I want you to remember, handle your emotions or they are going to handle you, okay? Have that in your mind. Learn to handle your emotions or they will handle you. Do you remember in the self-control unit on page 70, do you remember that drawing where the puppet, where it had the person and they were like a puppet on a string because they were being led by their emotions? Do you remember that? You might want to go back and rehearse that self-control unit. Excellent, excellent book. We're going to begin now. It says, learning to handle emotions appropriately is another area where self-control is needed. Emotions can run the gamut. Run the gamut. And you can circle the phrase run the gamut. It actually means, just in case you need it broken down for you, it means to experience, display, or perform the complete range of something. To experience, display, or perform the complete range of something. So you can see here, our emotions can run the gamut. And we are just as susceptible to this wide range of emotions in our work environments as we are in our personal lives. Okay? Now, remember, let's go back to page 30. Go back to page 30. See what it says there on page 30? Just what is self-control? We need to take this to work. We should probably make a big poster of it, have it displayed, have it at home, have it at work, have it everywhere. Have it when you're driving in your car. Because remember, our thoughts lead to feelings, our feelings lead to actions, and our actions lead us to doing something. And it's going to give us either a reward or a consequence. And in the workplace, It can be something very severe like a workplace shooting, and we've seen a lot of these lately. So keeping that in mind, we should make a poster of that. That should be something that we're always looking at. So at work, in our personal lives, because in our work and in our personal lives, and you can make a little note there, we have rules that govern both our personal lives and our work. And you might think, rules to govern my personal life? Like, I don't have any rules on my wall to govern my personal life, but you do. You know, everyone has that set of morals. Those are your rules, remember? Morals being rules. That is our rules that govern our personal life. We carry these same morals into the workplace, right? Or we should. Then it says anger, hostility, jealousy, resentment, and competitiveness are only some of the negative emotions that we might have to conquer in order to improve our interactions and productivity while at work. And remember, society promotes competition. Be better than the next guy. Step on that next guy to get up the ladder. That's not how it should be, but that's what society pushes. When you're a moral person, you're not wanting to do that. You can compete with yourself. You can do better than you did yesterday, right? That's okay. But you should never compete against another worker. That's only going to breed hostility. You're going to want to always one-up them. It's just not productive. And it doesn't make for a great working environment. And it always ends up, too, with a threat. You have a threat hanging over you. You know, compete. You know, if you don't do better, if you don't do as great as so-and-so, you can be replaced. And that is what takes place in society, in the workplaces, and that's why they push this competition. When they push the competition, they think that it makes everybody want to work harder, but it actually brings the morale down, okay? So we don't ever want to be like that. So when we're bringing this into the workplace and we're teaching this, teachers, we want to make sure that we promote non-competitiveness. We don't need to compete. Everyone, the person sitting next to you has a job and you have a job. You both get a paycheck at the end of the week, right? So you don't need to compete. You're not going to get their paycheck and they're not going to come take yours. Everyone has their place doing their thing and they can do it to the best of their ability, right? Do you see how well that can work? It says we have the uncanny ability to stuff our feelings and for the most part, function as if everything is okay. Now, I do want a show of hands now. How many of you have ever stuffed your real feelings? Be honest. Okay, a lot of hands are up. And those of you who don't have your hands up, well, think about it. Because I think at one time or another, we've all stuffed how we really feel. Because if we didn't stuff it sometimes, it's like, how many of you have ever shaken up like a bottle of soda? You shake it up, you shake it up, you shake it up, and that pop, the top pops off, and everything comes bubbling out. Well, that's what takes place when we stuff. So that's why it's really great to talk. Talk it out, okay? Don't stuff. The problem is that these feelings eat us. I want you to highlight this. This is really major, this statement. The problem is that these feelings eat at us from the inside out. So these feelings that we've got stuffed in here are actually eating at us from the inside. So you're going to have stomach ache, you're going to have all these things going on inside because they're eating you up. Because you really are upset and you're stuffing down all these emotions because you just can't find the ability to communicate, so it's stuffed and it's in there, okay? And like negative thoughts, they can be counterproductive, so they are not at all productive. They can lead to intense interactions that can affect not only our work environment, but our family life as well. It is not uncommon for people to take out the anger and hostilities that originate at work out on their families, and of course, vice versa. Now, you might have a situation, let's say a man has a very high-stress job or a woman has a very high-stress job, and she knows she just can't take it out on the people she works with, so possibly she goes home and takes it out on her children, or the husband gets a tongue lash. So these are when these things that we're stuffing it at work, they can come spilling out in other areas of our lives, okay? And that's why it's very important that we learn to get a handle on our emotions. Because it could just be as simple as sitting down and communicating with somebody rather than letting that fester. And every time you see the person or the person's name is mentioned in your presence, your gut starts wrenching, right? That's not going to be productive. And believe it or not, people can see when you have a disdain for them. Have you ever noticed when someone just doesn't like you? I have. Even when I try to be friendly or interact with, there's particular people that have been put in my life. When I try to interact with them on a friendly basis, they don't realize it, but their eyes roll. And I'm like, their eyes just rolled. I was trying to interact in a nice, positive way. Their eyes rolled because it's on a subconscious level and we don't know we're doing it. But our facial expressions and our body language, it gives us away. So it would be better to say, "Hi, lady that I roll my eyes at every time that you try to be nice to me. I have something against you in my gut. And I was thinking, if I could make an appointment to sit down with you and talk to you, we might be able to work these things out so that I don't lose my eyes in the back of my head somewhere and I'm unable to do my work." I try to make it humorous, but it's real. And so as teachers, you want to teach the people that you're teaching, whether it be the supervisors, to try to make sure that they're opening up dialogue with the people that they work with. And for the workers, to make sure that they know that they should be opening up dialogue with their supervisor, boss, whatever it is that deals with them. Because it's not productive. And it comes through, and then other people can see it. Other people, I just noticed that every time that you and Susie interact, she stiffens up. Is there a problem between you? So people notice those kind of things. And what we don't want is we don't want our workplace to be seen as the place. You don't want to work at that place, right? We want our environment to be friendly and workable. So continuing here, it says, what causes us to internalize our feelings? What causes us to internalize our feelings until they result in physical ailments? Now, I'm talking, it can be real issues. Real stomach aches, real physical issues. But remember, there was another thing that we can internalize. I want to see how many of you remember. We're supposed to internalize something, and I believe it was on page 18 of something. Does anyone remember that? When you internalize your positive character traits, what is that called? Integrity, yes, great job. You're internalizing positive character traits. You're internalizing that. That is okay to internalize. You want to internalize that, not the negative emotions. We don't want to internalize that, okay? Because that's bad for you. And like it says, you're drinking the poison going, oh, gurgle, gurgle. I wonder how long it's going to take her to die. You're drinking the poison. And in the meantime, they're living their life. They're doing what they need to do. It's important. These are such important lessons. Don't glaze over them when you teach them. So what causes us to internalize our feelings until they result in physical ailments, ruin our interactions, or cause us to behave inappropriately? There are many answers to this question. We're going to go over just a few tonight. And the first one, we are insecure about telling others how we feel. And it's important, and that's why I stress again, communicate. You might be scared that it's not going to go well when you communicate with this person that you feel like you have a problem with. But they can feel it that you have a problem with them, trust me, and they really, really want you to come to them. They do. But come to them in a way that is peaceful. You don't want to go, you got a minute? So I got this problem with you. No, you would want to go to them and you'd want to say, hey, do you got a minute? Sure. What you got? Well, I just kind of feel like there's something between us. I don't know how it started or when it started. I just know it's there. And then the two of you can work it out to where you can possibly start over. Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Sue. And just start fresh. Get all that baggage. Get rid of it. It's not beneficial for you, and it's not beneficial for Sue. Okay? So that's what you want to teach them. Teach them to start fresh. If you might not even realize when or how it started, that's okay. There's something there. Do you feel it? Yes, I feel it. I feel it too. Do you want it to stay there? No, I don't. Do you? No, I absolutely don't. Because if you got two people that are practicing that character trait of humility, they're going to want to work those things out. True or false, class? True. So the only reason it's not going to work is if one person isn't practicing that great character trait. Okay? So get it resolved. Don't be afraid. In the workplace, who's the one, the second bullet point. We doubt that the situation will be resolved satisfactorily. We don't think it's going to be resolved. Well, who's the one that resolves things in your workplace? This is what you're teaching them. Who's the one that resolves these things? Go to that person. That's their job to resolve it. If they don't, take it somewhere else. You can go to your supervisor. This is what we're teaching. Your supervisor has a supervisor. I really tried I used the character trait of humble. I went in there and I really tried to work it out with her. And she told me to stand up and turn around and walk myself out. You have every right to take that to that person's supervisor. This is what you teach because everyone has a supervisor. I guess it stops somewhere. But everyone has someone that they answer to, right? Even if it's only their own conscience, that everyone has someone or something to answer to. So the third bullet point, we believe we should just get over it. I should just get over it. I don't really need to go talk to that person. Or maybe the other person, well, she just needs to get over it. If somebody doesn't like me, oh well, they just need to get over it. No, I don't want to feel that way. This is what we're teaching. We should not want to have to go to work with somebody that we know has a problem with us, right? It makes for 8 hours, and if you work overtime, it could be a little longer than that. It makes for 8 tormenting hours every time you interact, pass one another, glance at one another, deal with one another, or you can have a decent working relationship. A lot of times, if both people are honest, there's a little bit that they're both doing wrong to contribute to the problem. Because all the years that I've taught this program, I've never seen where it's, well, Matilda, I'm sorry to say it's all you. Your supervisor, your boss is perfect, and you are just I don't even know if we can work with you, Matilda. Or to the boss, you know, all your employees, they are top of the line. I'm not quite sure how you got this job, supervisor. No, it's usually a little bit of both, or a lot of bit of both. But the word bit is in there, right? And it can be, if the bit is in there, bite it off and get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Raise your hand if you want to keep something just hanging over you negative like that forever. And you would just enjoy going to work. Well, neither will your students when you're teaching this program. They don't want to go to work like, my alarm just went off. It's almost time to go meet the beast. Right? No, they want to be productive. They want to see the people that they work with. They get along with one another, right? That's how it can be. We think that talking about it will not solve anything. See, what takes place then is you're harboring negative feelings. They're already there. And I can't talk to that person. Talking about it is going to solve nothing because that person doesn't listen to me. And as supervisors, what we need to be teaching the supervisors is when somebody comes to talk to you, when they're speaking to you, don't turn your back and walk away and just tell them you're too busy to talk to you. No. If you are busy, just say, I'm in the middle of something right now. Can we talk in a little while? Can you come see me again at 3? 5:05, are you willing to stay late? Possibly it's a real busy day. But take time to make time. This is what we're teaching the supervisors. And the people, the workers, don't say, oh, no, it just isn't going to work. It's just not going to work. Because remember, you're harboring that negative feeling. You're harboring that. It's just not going to work. Talking is not going to solve anything. So the next thing, we fear that we might jeopardize our position. It might seem like that we're complaining. Well, complaining, do you want to write this down? Because that's fair. Complaining is voicing non-appreciation. It's voicing a non-appreciation that has nothing to do with goals. It's just complaining about something that has nothing to do with the goals of the workplace. However, informing is not complaining. So make sure that it's not just nitpicking and complaining and it has nothing to do with the goal of the company or the place that you're working. Just nitpicking or this or that. But informing is okay. Informing. You know, I just wanted to let you know. Because see, there's something that you need to inform the person. You need to give them information in order to, if it's the supervisor, possibly do something different the way that something's being done in the workplace. Let them know that possibly one of your coworkers is doing something that could jeopardize the goals of the company in general. But not to just complain. Now, I'm here to tell you, and I know you know this is true, complaining is one of the easiest traps to fall into. True or false? If you say false, I don't believe you. Complaining is a very easy trap to fall into. We don't even always know we're doing it. It's just very comfortable. It's very comfortable to fall into complaining. But really, it's not productive, and we need to change that, okay? So we need to work on, I'll go inform if it's something that's jeopardizing the goals or the success of the company or the place that I work, but not just to complain, okay? Because if you're informing, then they're not going to take it as an attack, like a criticism, and you're more likely to get the results that you as an individual that are looking for, okay? So that's what we're teaching. Because nobody likes to be criticized all the time. So the next bullet point here, it says, we simply want others to like us, and we don't want to feel excluded. Remember, this is what causes us to internalize our feelings until they result in physical ailments, ruin our interactions, cause us to behave inappropriately. Don't forget what we're reading these for. We simply want others to like us, and we don't want to feel excluded. How many of you have ever felt excluded? Ever? Okay, most of us have at one point in our life. Okay, it's not a great feeling. It's funny because I had one worker come to me and say, I feel like I'm not included in the workplace. And I said, well, why do you feel that way? I really wanted to know, why was she feeling that way? She sat down with me and she said, well, everyone, when they start talking or telling a story and they laugh, and she's from a different country, so she sometimes doesn't understand. And so when she tries to pipe in, sometimes it's a little awkward. And she can feel that. She doesn't understand her when she tries to get into the conversation. She has a hard time. So I put myself in her shoes, and I really empathized with her that day because I thought, how hard would that be? You're from another country. You're here on a work exchange program, and you don't really speak that English is not your first language, and you don't feel included. So then it seems that we could go the extra mile to try to converse and make the person feel included, because we know nobody likes to feel unincluded. Nobody. Sometimes even in different situations, I'll hear people talking, and it'll sound like a great conversation, and I'll walk out and I'll try to participate in the conversation. I like when I'm included in the conversation. I don't like when then everybody's just like, crickets. Why is she coming here and ruin our conversation? No, it's something that you don't like that feeling. So what we don't like as people, we're teaching in the workplace, don't do that to other people. If you don't like it, don't do that to other people. If someone tries to reach out and converse with you, grab hold of that. Give them that. Sometimes that's what they need in their day. Like that lady that sat down with me, sometimes that's what they need in their day just to keep going. Okay? That's what we're teaching. It's called empathy. Okay, so we're continuing Procedure 6, and we're going now on to page 39. And it says, on the top of page 39, it says, sometimes our negative thoughts can cause us to feel insecure. We feel incapable of adequately describing our feelings to others. Now imagine if you're not even from the same country. And I deal with someone that has a verbalization problem, where they can't really verbalize what they have special needs. They don't know how to get what's in here properly out here. Sometimes people just don't know how to communicate what they're feeling. So we have to sometimes stop and repeat, ask questions. Remember what we learned about the communication? It's okay to say, so are you saying this? No, you didn't understand what I was trying to say. Let me try again. And you communicate like that. Don't just be like, I can't talk to you. Or she doesn't understand anything I say. I can't understand her. Because that's when the walls go up. That's when the barriers go up, right? So let's do our best when we're teaching this to really, really get everyone to understand that we have to step into other people's shoes, really, with our minds. Not like, take your shoes off, I'm going to wear them. Really empathize with them. Feel what they're feeling. So it says, we feel incapable of adequately describing our feelings to others. Uncertain as to how to best express our feelings, we keep them bottled up and eventually suffer from an emotional overload. On other occasions, we believe that no one can help us. No one can help us. That's that feeling. And that the situation is simply not fixable. We feel powerless and out of control. Have you ever worked with someone that has had an emotional explosion? One of the things that I do in my job is I deal with workers that come from other areas that need to be counseled, talked to. And I had somebody come talk to me the other day, and they just blew up, but they felt like they were being picked and prodded and poked, and they just blew up, but they didn't know how to express that. They felt bottled up. They felt like they were on an overload. They didn't believe anyone could help. The situation was not fixable, so they walked off of their job. They just walked out. And that's what they did until they came to talk to me. We feel pressure. We feel real pressure when we're at work. Like sometimes we feel like we just can't do the job, or we don't know how to do it, or we try to ask questions and we're made to feel stupid. Well, you should know how to do that. Someone told me that if somebody didn't know how to do something that I trained them to do, that I needed to train them to do it again. That's what we want to tell the supervisors. And if you feel that you can't communicate with certain ones because maybe you can feel that there's a block, get a mediator or somebody else in there that can talk with them or can implement those things and train them. Somebody that you can talk to them. That's a mediator. There's a beauty in that. It takes the pressure off of you, and it's a win-win situation. Do you see it? Everyone wants people, we all want our work area to succeed. You know, it's not a great reflection on you if it's not succeeding. Remember, that's what we're teaching. So we do everything and try everything to get it to work because we want it to work. Okay, that next paragraph, it says, do not become discouraged or feel that the problem is greater than you can deal with. You can take charge of your thoughts. You can take charge of your thoughts and your feelings. If you can control your thoughts by changing the negative thoughts into positive ones, you will be better able to control your emotions and gain valuable insight into your behavior. You need what we learned in the last unit that we covered, if you remember. We need foresight and insight to manage our emotions. You want to write that down. We need foresight and insight to manage our emotions. Think of it like you're on a horse, okay? And the horse is trotting and you got the reins. Now, this horse just starts running. And it's running and it's getting ready to run towards a fence. And you're like, uh-oh. You've got the reins. You have control. You can gently stop that horse. Think of your emotions like that horse. You've got the reins. You don't have to let it run out of control. You have the control. It's in your hands. Those reins are in your hands. The next paragraph. Feelings were not meant to be stuffed until they explode. Damaging ourselves, everyone around us, we have the ability and the tools to handle our emotions properly. It is up to each one of us to use self-control. Remember page 30? And we had that little diagram. And remember what the first teacher covered on page 34. I wanted to show some slides real quick before we're finished, because I'm going to have to stop there for this evening. But what are emotions? We learned this in the self-control unit, page 30, because we're talking about emotions, but what are they? Emotions are strong physical and mental responses triggered by what we experience. A trigger is something that starts a process. Remember, it can end bad. Emotions are triggered by what we hear, see, smell, taste, touch, and think. Triggers can affect what we feel almost instantaneously. That's the self-control unit, page 30. Now, I want to give you another one here. On page 34 of the self-control unit, not just skin deep. Emotions, whether negative or positive, are powerful. Powerful. They have the capacity to affect you both physically and mentally. Physically, emotions can cause us to experience intense reactions with our bodies. Intense. For instance, some emotions can cause a flushed face, eye rolling, stomach ache, goosebumps on the skin. All these things, when we get nervous or afraid, Mentally, emotions can result in feeling energized or worn out, satisfied or discouraged, motivated or depressed. If not managed, remember, you've got the reins. If not managed appropriately, some emotions can result in serious physical and mental illness. That's page 34 of the self-control unit. That's big. Now, one more. On page 34, the same unit, self-control, emotions can really wear you down. Emotions such as anger, anxiety, fear, guilt, and jealousy can cause stress and tension to build in our minds and our bodies. Think of it like this. Your body is a complex structure composed of organs and systems that perform various functions. Everything must be balanced and work together precisely for you to function at your best. At your best. Your mind must be healthy in order for your body to function well, and your body must be healthy in order for your mind to function well. Okay? That's big. That's big. So our last paragraph for this evening is going to be, if you realize that your emotions are affecting the quality of your work, see, this takes effort, and your interactions with your coworkers and supervisor, it's time to seek help. Unresolved work issues are the main cause of conflicts, disagreements, and the workplace disasters that we hear about on the news, these shootings. So we have to teach the supervisors to look for cues. Are your workers, is their work slipping? Do you see things in them? Go to them, talk to them. Try to take the load off. I'm telling you, I'm always looking for ways to take the load off because we work in a very high stress environment. So no, let's not do this here anymore. Let's do this over here. To take the stress off, there's a lot of stress in our daily lives. Our jobs is to help each other. Supervisors help the workers, and workers help your supervisors to take that stress off so that we can be productive. Okay, so we're going to take up here next week, right where we left off, okay? Appreciate you coming tonight, and have a great, fantastic, positive week.